Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Breaking Points. Emily, great to see you.
It's great to be here. Happy Monday, everyone. We have a big show. The New York City mayoral election is coming up, and we have some pictures, video from a giant rally that happened last night. Actually, on the year anniversary of Trump's Madison Square Garden rally.
I didn't know that.
I think today is the anniversary of the Madison Square Garden rally, and
I have
of course,
to think about what that means.
I think Zoran did that on purpose.
What the astrology of that means. Yeah, there's a bunch of news in the show. So we've got potential trade deal with China we're going to get to. We've got trade tensions with Canada over some Ronald Reagan ad. I have a lot of thoughts about that one. We're tracking the government shutdown. Troops on the verge of not getting paid. A weird anonymous donor who we just learned who they are came in to pay like a small portion. Anyway, weird stuff going on there. Candace Owens apparently thinks Peter Thiel is not human. And Elon Musk and Sam Altman, I think, were the three that she name-checked in particular. So
that may weigh on your mind as you determine whether Brigitte Macron is or is not a woman. Because Candace batting, I don't know, maybe 500 on some of these diagnoses.
Yeah, I guess I'm becoming more persuaded of Candace on a variety of things with this new take. So anyway, a lot that's going on there. Binance CEO pardoned in a corrupt deal. The aforementioned Zoran rally, plus him being attacked aggressively by any number of corners from Democrats and Republicans for his Muslim faith. And Karine Jean-Pierre is out with a new book, and it is really something. And the Washington Post review of it, scathing. Did you read this whole thing?
Oh my gosh.
I sort of want to read all. It's a little too long to just read the whole thing out. But whoever wrote this is not a person I was really familiar with. She did a phenomenal job just taking apart not just Karine Jean-Pierre, but this particular style of self-congratulatory decorum liberalism.
Yeah, the review is about so much more than KJP. It's about this era in our politics. And reading the review, and we'll get into this, of course, is sort of like a window into the last decade. And you can kind of feel like this is an era that is over, like a chapter that's over. So it's actually a good block to do after the Zoran block, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Good point. That works well. So we've got a lot in the show. We're going to try to get to all of it, especially because Emily really wants to talk about the KJP piece. So we're going to try to keep these blocks from meandering too long. You know, us ladies like to talk.
I was going to say,
we do the ladies show.
Odds are low. We'll have only ourselves to blame.
Yes, indeed. All right. So let's go ahead and get to this potential Chinese trade deal. Our negotiators have been talking to their negotiators. Scott Bessent is saying that it's looking good. Trump is supposed to meet with Xi later this week. And so he was making the rounds of the Sunday shows. He got asked specifically about soybeans, because this has been a huge sore spot. That's the words I'm looking for. Sore spot for American farmers. You know, major problem. The Argentina thing ties into that as well. And so in any case, he gets asked about this and reveals something I was not aware of, which is he, too, is actually a soybean farmer. Let's take a listen.
China has been boycotting American soybeans, and American farmers have really suffered. Do you see a real light at the end of the tunnel there? They may allow soybeans again?
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this pain too. And there are a couple of things happening here. One, the Chinese have substantially dropped their purchases to almost zero, so they unfortunately have been using American farmers who are amongst President Trump's biggest supporters. I think he had more than 90% support. And then this was one of the biggest crops in 20 or 30 years, so it was a perfect storm. But I think we have addressed the farmers' concerns, and I'm not going to get ahead of the president, but I believe when the announcement of the deal with China is made public, that our soybean farmers will feel very good about what's going on.
So never fear, American farmers, Treasury Secretary, billionaire Scott Bessent is a bit of a soybean farmer himself and is feeling the pain here too.
Is he worth $1 billion, or is he like $500 million?
I thought he was a billionaire, but maybe I'll double check.
Exorbitantly wealthy either way.
Near multi-hundred millionaire, potentially.
Right. And so actually what's kind of interesting about that clip is, first of all, this is why people should divest their financial interests so that you aren't, quote, feeling the pain, because that obviously creates different interests that could be influencing the way you do policy. I'm actually not saying that's the case in Scott Bessent's position here, although the Argentinian beef saga, which we're going to get into, seems like the Argentinian soybean situation had a little bit to do with maybe Scott Bessent's interests, as Ryan and I covered, and we interviewed an Argentinian journalist about all of that. But the other thing is a lot of these, like, quote, soybean farmers are just exorbitantly wealthy, big ag people. And so that's another important part of this. And I suspect we'll get to it with our guests as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's go ahead and put A2 up on the screen. Just, we don't know a lot about this potential deal. I mean, it's not even been inked yet, but they're describing this as a positive framework, which has been agreed to prior to this Trump-Xi summit. Some of the pieces, obviously, that are being watched with close interest are the soybean piece, some sort of agreement with regard to fentanyl, or the fentanyl precursors that come from China, and then in addition, the rare earths export controls, which China had been, threatening, which could just completely tank our entire economy, which is just one giant bet on AI. So the rare earth mineral situation, very critical. I think, some of the leverage that was applied there from China is probably part of what is helping to potentially bring this deal together at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, the importance of China to the soybean market, you can't possibly understate it. It's so crucial and significant. And so Trump is also in Japan today. He already touched down in Japan. And he'll be going to South Korea. He's already trying to meet with Kim Jong-un, which has nothing to do with soybeans, of course. But this entire swing is to shore up deals that since Liberation Day that was April 2nd, April 1st, April 2nd. They didn't want to do it on April Fool's Day. This is how many months? 6 months. And here's the tour to try to shore up some of these deals and get specifics down and make it work for Americans.
Yeah, indeed. And at the same time, there's a new blow up with regard to Canada. I mean, this is just like typical Trumpian, the dumbest thing possible. The whole thing is extremely annoying to me. So Ontario launched this ad buy that featured snippets from a Ronald Reagan speech where he's talking about how tariffs are bad, right? Reagan being, the neoliberal, the trickle-down economics guy, whatever. Not my economic cup of tea. And part of why me and Sagar and I think you and Brian have been pissed off at the incredibly stupid way that Trump has gone about doing tariffs, because it has created this reaction of just like, oh, the tariffs in general must be bad. And it's like, well, no, they're a tool that can be used with industrial policy that can be effective. But anyway, you get from Canada this Ronald Reagan speech ad where he's talking about tariffs, and this apparently deeply upset President Trump. So let's take a listen first to the ad.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
This was very upsetting to Trump. We can put A4 up on the screen. And we should say, too, by the way, I mean, what Reagan is articulating there was like the standard free trade orthodoxy that reigned in this town up until quite recently. And, really starts to break under Trump. Biden moves in that direction as well. And then we've had, Trump 2.0, where they've just done all kinds of wild things. But in any case, Trump on Truth Social says, the Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement, which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. The ad was for $75 million. They only did this to interfere with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on their egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. And Emily, he went on from there to announce that they were going to levy an additional across-the-board 10% tariff on all Canadian goods.
And he said he doesn't think he's going to be meeting with Mark Carney again anytime soon. Now, Reagan is such an interesting case study because Reagan was criticized relentlessly by the sort of hyper neoliberals at the time for putting tariffs, very protectionist tariffs on Japan. And so Reagan is the worst possible case study for the Doug Fords of the world. He's in charge of Ontario, Rob Ford, the great Rob Ford's brother, to embrace, because again, like there's a lot of daylight between Trump's tariff policy and Reagan's tariff policy. But the particular example of Canada actually is instructive, because the rebalancing of the trade relationship with Canada is something that almost everyone, except for the most like libertarian-minded person, would tell you was completely necessary. And so for Canada to deploy Reagan in that way is just, it's like insulting on a million different levels, but it's especially stupid when you think about what the relationship what the U.S. trade relationship with Canada looked like. Like, what do they want? They want just like completely, they want what they were used to, like what you were saying.
Well, and Rob Ford is an interesting character because he's a very kind of like Trumpian figure.
Doug Ford.
Sorry, Rob was the brother.
They look exactly like
they look a similar character. I mean, Rob was wilder for sure, but Doug Ford is a Trumpian type of character, very bombastic, very nationalist in his way. And so it's also worth remembering, like, this actually wasn't Mark Carney. This wasn't the whole of Canada.
Right.
This is this one province that decided to spend this money. And by the way, again, the idea is this for this to play in American markets, which is what pissed Trump off. But then, you have Trump using like the powers of a king to just like, he's pissed off. So separate and apart from any economic pretext even. He's just like, I don't like your ad. So now the entire country is going to be tariff 10%, which those costs, guess what? Guess who pays those? Consumers, and disproportionately working class consumers in the US, who will now bear the cost of Trump just being like annoyed over this stupid Ronald Reagan ad. Scott Bessent was, of course, asked about this on the Sunday shows as well, and didn't have a lot of answers about, okay, well, what are we talking about? Is it 10% truly across the board? Are there going to be any exceptions, et cetera? Let's go ahead and take a listen to what he had to say.
Why is the president setting trade policy based on a television ad he doesn't like?
Well, Kristen, let's think about this. This is a kind of propaganda against U.S. citizens. It's psyops. Why would the government of Ontario? I'm told that they have spent or were planning to spend up to $75 million on these ads to come across the U.S. border. So what was the purpose of that other than to sway public opinion? And, it's some kind of propaganda that the premier of Ontario unilaterally launched.
Will the 10% tariffs apply to all Canadian goods, Mr. Secretary?
Kristen, I've been traveling since this unfortunate event happened. I know that the ad's been taken down. So, we'll have to see.
Does the president know if the tariffs will apply to 10% tariffs will apply to all Canadian goods? Has he made a determination about that?
Well, I'm sure he knows, and I'm sure the Ambassador Greer knows.
I'm sure he knows, but I don't really know, so can't answer your question.
That says it all. That says it all. I'm sure he knows,
but I'm not sure that he is sure that he knows. Like he's probably like, oh, maybe not, but he's probably didn't really think it through. He's just like, yeah, 10%. I'm pissed off, and like that's as much of the thinking as goes into this.
I mean, the billions of dollars that are on the line with these whims is. It's truly, I mean, you use the word king, but like that's why tariffs are supposed to go through Congress for the most part, or they were originally supposed to go through Congress for the most part, because there's just, I mean, your entire, this is planning of the economy, and obviously there's more to the economy than tariffs, but in a lot of cases, some of the downstream stuff that we talk about, taxes and the like, actually are coming, like the tariffs are the first part of this. It's like, how much business can you do in the United States? What kind of business can you do at what cost in the United States? So other stuff, when it comes to economic planning, in many cases, a downstream of the tariffs. And so you have the executive on a whim. The ad is the best example of this because we know that it's happened before. Like even with Doug Ford, there's been back and forth with Trump and sort of these capricious tariffs. But that's Trump's point, is that, and I think for the first month, like post-April 2nd, whatever it was, this uncertainty that Trump was using it as his leverage kind of made sense because people were like, whoa, we have no idea what's coming. They were forced to the table. but the longer the uncertainty goes on, people don't have to necessarily come to the table because they say it's not a good bet. Like I'm betting on what I don't know, and Trump never made it clear what he's actually looking for in particular from these other countries. So, yeah, it's either one side of the spectrum or the other. Like Canada either wants their fantasy of Reagan era free trade, or they want some certainty from Trump as to what he's looking for on that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And that's
Even
why
his
you end up
own
betting
Treasury
in the other
Secretary
way.
doesn't have that. Yeah.
Right, which is where people end up betting in the other direction because you don't have the certainty.
Yeah. Well, Bessent and his hedge fund buddies should be happy with the results in Argentina last night.
Yes.
I don't know if you tracked.
Big win.
Milei's party secured, I think, 40% of the vote.
Pretty easy win.
So, and I mean, basically what happened here is Milei's party suffered some losses in local elections. And it looked like the public was turning against, you know, I hesitate to call it libertarian at this point when you're getting bailouts from all kinds of, including our own country around the world. But, you know, it was looking like the Argentinian public was turning on this project. And then the Trump administration comes in and says basically like, okay, we're going to bail you out, but if you don't vote the way that we want you to, we're going to screw you over. I mean, there's an overt threat that was made, and it appears that the public responded to that. So Milei's party performed well. Obviously, this ties into the soybean market as one piece. And the other piece of this that we've been covering as well is the cattle ranching industry and the beef industry. Beef prices in this country have been extremely high and rising. You would think that cattle ranchers who have been struggling and screwed in a lot of ways that we've also been covering over the years, you would think that would be a good thing, you know, for them. Maybe they're getting more on their end, but because of monopoly and consolidation, that has really not come together for cattle ranchers here in the U.S. Then Trump came in and said that to depress the prices, to further screw the ranchers here, he's going to buy beef from Argentina. So to talk about all of these things, we actually have a rancher who also is a journalist who covers the industry extensively. Mike Hallicrate is going to join us now.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.